Hello everyone, welcome once again to Investing with a Difference. So today we are going to look at one of the important referendums and key pieces of the governance in EOS. So we are talking about the new user agreement, EOS User Agreement document, and this is designed by EOS New York, and they're proposing it to replace the interim constitution. As you know, the interim constitution was what was part of the EOS-IO first release, and it included a lot of controversial and subjective articles, like we were talking about ECAF, which was not really defined as a code. It was not defined as the details, but it was talked as some sort of arbitration agency, which has been a bit of a kind of you can say controversial, and there was a lot of FUD around it. The second part is there was Article 15, which was kind of in EOS interim constitution that said that after 3 years, if you do not make any transaction, those tokens can be taken away. All those kind of things created a lot of controversy in early days, and even till recently, I think there's a lot of concern from bigger population around EOS constitution, reversibility, and so on. And what this user agreement does is it makes it very simple, and it creates a very enforceable kind of a constitution. And they're not calling it constitution because that again drives a lot of strong reactions from public. So it's simply called EOS User Agreement because ultimately it's a technology which people are using and building on top of as a blockchain, and you don't want to call it as a relate it to something like governments and governance and so on. It should be a simply user agreement for anybody who is coming in and using EOS tokens, and they have very nicely designed like anybody who is a EOS account holder as EOS-IO prods, and then they have separated out block producers who are actually running dredge producer. And not only that, they have made certain very enforceable statements about it. So we recommend you to go ahead and read it. We spent some time on it, so a lot of people were voting on it, and we were planning to spend some time on it. After reviewing in detail, I think it's a pretty good solid user agreement. I don't have any concerns with most of the articles in this. It talks about how you should be like how the token holders and the EOS prods, which is anybody who creates an account, they maintain the chain, they can make changes, and the liability being limited, and so on, and it can be really a good agreement for every token holder to do. So now let's look at the status. I think if you see, quite a few people have voted on it. It's already 11 million votes, including ours, Investing with a Difference. And what you're seeing here is I don't even see any red. That means almost everybody is voting positively for this kind of change, and we have a very small percentage of no. Actually, it's only 24,000 votes versus out of the 11.6 million vote we are talking about. So it's like a very positive response from the community. As I can say that very limited no votes here. And so I would highly recommend anybody who has not yet voted to go check it out. If you're proxying with us, your vote is already counted, but of course, as I keep reminding you, that you can always change it. Now let's look at how many block producers have voted. So EOS Titan has this amazing tool. So I love EOS Authority with all these charts they create, but I think EOS Titan has done a very good job with what they call it a block producer voting. So this is like exactly how many block producers are supporting this EOS user agreement. So as you can see here, EOS New York, which proposed it, has voted for it. EOS Nation, EOS Titan, Argentina, Aloha, quite a few have voted already, and a lot of them are pending. What we are seeing here is that Rex for All, which is one of the most popular referendum, is actually voted most by most of the block producers. So that's in the best condition to get approved as soon as it is put up for BP voting. And also, I think you can see a pretty good chart heat map of which proxies have voted for what. And as you can see, Investing with a Difference, we have voted on all these proposals. You can see the listing here. But again, coming back to the user agreement, I think it's a great move. We do need more like on-chain approved user agreement, and we do need to replace the interim constitution, which has always been very controversial. So do send us your feedback, what you think. We have been continuously doing the due diligence on all these referendums. And one more thing a lot of people have been asking is, it doesn't look like we are moving towards 15% on most of these referendums. What will happen? And EOS New York came out with a very good piece on it, saying that referendum is not like that specifically we need to wait for 15%, and the reason they came out was very solid, that let's say if you are at 12% or 10% voting and it is 99% positive voting, now the people who want to vote no, they will not vote, because of the game theory. This is like they have applied the game theory to this, and they said if the people do not vote at all, that will be the better way of getting the referendum to fail rather than actually voting no. So basically by voting no, you are helping that referendum to pass because of the threshold being met. So this is not a great idea to enforce the minimum threshold, and that is a very compelling argument, and I congratulate them for bringing this out in addition to bringing this user agreement. And I think this is something which is food for thought, and let's see how it evolves, whether block producers go ahead and implement these changes, which are still a pretty good participation, while it may not be huge participation. Remember that only 100 million votes have counted for being a top block producer. So a big chunk of 20 to 25 million vote which say that certain things should be passed in the referendum polls can be a good indication for BPs to make a decision. So this is going to play out very interestingly as we go along and as this referendum expires. So let's see how that happens, but I think some good referendums are being put in place, and we look to make progress on that. So thanks once again for joining. Do send us your feedback, whether you agree with the user agreement or if you have any concerns, and we would definitely try to address them. Thank you. Bye bye.